What's going on, Star Wars fans?
Hello there.
We are here again live with Nick and Derek and myself. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good. How you doing?
Good. Mike should be here shortly. So we are going to start off. If you guys read the stuff coming on, we're going to talk a little bit about Lego stuff, some of the new characters in Starfighter that they've just announced, some of the big names, and some Mandalorian and Grogu stuff. So join the chat. Hello, Jessica. How are you? Thanks for joining in.
What's up?
Anybody else joining in? Say hello. Tell us where you're coming from, and we'll get started. We had a funny thing last week and I wanted to start this off, and I was saying something to you guys beforehand. And last week, Mike had sent me this while we were chatting, and we found out where Neil went. So Neil is hanging out with Pokemon. Okay, but what I also found out is we have been wondering where Ahsoka has been for some of these different fights, and now we know she has been texting during the Battle of Scarif, Yavin, Hoth. I just thought that was pretty funny. It was really good. It was like it was her texting. It was like a movie. It was her texting the whole time. Well, that whole thing right across, but I thought that was pretty funny. What's going on, Jake? Jake is joining us he's doing a little dispatching tonight from his work. So let's jump right into some of this stuff. We're gonna talk about Legos. We're gonna talk about some of the new cast members here, like we were talking about, and we are gonna talk about Mandalorian and Grogu. So what I wanted to do, have you guys seen the new trailer for the logo for Legos yet?
Yes, I have not.
Oh, well, good. Well, we're going to watch it because I know it's been out for a little while, and I'm sure probably most everybody that's been on here has seen it besides Nick. But it's Legends, I guess, or not even. It's definitely not canon, but there's some really cool characters that we've talked about in the past couple weeks, and I know Derek is excited about Cal Kestis. We have and Darth Revan, who you're a big fan of him as well. So absolutely. I figured we'd watch this. It's almost 2 minutes, so check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's pretty cool.
Hi, we're all back. A little while ago, I accidentally mashed up the galaxy we all know and love for good. Good guys became bad guys.
You insolent child.
Bad guys became good guys.
I find your abundance of faith encouraging.
It turns out I kind of like this new galaxy.
This could still be a good thing.
My name is Solitus. I've spent countless eons gathering power to unmake this galaxy once and for all.
Stop breathing so loudly, Vader. You'll blow our cover.
We have to defeat Solitus before the rift goes critical.
If Dev and I join together,
Wow.
maybe we can beat him.
We can't trust a Sith. Sith treachery is legendary. Legendary!
Can we just get to the fighting already?
My two favorite Jedi.
I'm here as well.
You ready to strap in?
1 second, I'm almost done checking.
We found a baby Yoda.
The baby's name is Grogu, baby.
All of us need to fight for the future. That's a giant Chewbacca.
You really want a piece of this?
This isn't how it was supposed to be. In the old stories, the good guys always find a way.
Congratulations, you're being destroyed.
Who's ready to go on a hyperspace joyride? Who are you?
The name's Jackson. You probably haven't heard of me because I'm a real deep cut.
I think that's going to be pretty funny.
I can't wait.
And
Just so you know, boo-boo-doo.
that's awesome. I actually have a Jackson figure. The one that opens and closes. It's one of the ones. I'm guessing he's Legend. Is that correct? Do we know if he's Legend or is he canon now?
I don't know. That's a good question. We've got some good people in the chat, so let us know what you guys, what you know. Do some searching.
Also, what's going on, Steve?
Also, in my defense,
What
I have seen that one. I thought you were saying there was like some kind of brand new thing today or something.
Okay, no, it's
Very
just
excited.
shit.
Yeah.
And as predicted, we got nothing at Destination D23, which is I said that.
Yeah.
You
did.
That was.
And then I made like a bold prediction of like, but if we do, we'll get this. So yeah, we didn't get anything.
And then well, not the end. Even what is it? Today's the 3rd, so it's not 16 days. That'll be out. So that should be pretty good. I'm excited to see that. It's going to be funny. And again, I think when they're bringing characters in like this, it's not for no reason whatsoever. It's to bring them in to show us that these characters are somewhere in the universe, especially to some of the normie fans that don't watch as much as we do in reference to the animation or even the legend stuff where you have Darth Revan, because he's not canon yet, correct either?
He is not.
So yeah.
I think his images, or maybe not. There was a bunch of them that were they're kind of etched in the walls in Rise of Skywalker. Like Nihilus is etched in the wall and all those
really?
guys. I don't know if Revan is, but yeah, there are a few of those guys that are etched in the walls of Exegol. You can see them for like a hot second.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Check it out. I have the visual dictionary in here somewhere. But
or is it for the whole universe, or is it just for the Rise of Skywalker?
Just for that movie. I have a bunch of them, but
yeah, I just got the Solo one, which was pretty cool when I went to that estate sale, and I got 2 of the Black Spire books, Derek.
Oh,
there you go.
They're so good.
Yeah,
I realized I don't have the hard copy. I have a digital, and then I have the audiobook, and I bought the hard copy, but I gave them to people. So I need to buy some more.
Yeah, I always buy, if I can find the hard copy, I'll buy that just to have it, and then usually I listen to the audiobook. But I got those 2. They were both there. There was 2 of them there. They were both hardcovers, and then also the Solo character encyclopedia thing. So, which was pretty good. So, let's see. Moving on to our next thing, which I thought, again, I'm not a huge fan of big name. And I'm going to go ahead. I'll put this up over my.
I'm a big fan of this one. I'm a big fan of this one.
This is crazy.
I'm the same way. Like, I'm not a big fan of like having the big names in Star Wars, but Amy Adams, come on, what a babe. What a babe.
That's also surprising to me because, like, I don't recall her doing, big franchise action films like this.
Well, she was Lois Lane.
Oh, she was,
wasn't she?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Oh yeah,
she's Lois Lane in the Harvey Cartel or whatever his name is. And that's when they announced her for that. I think of her in that because I thought that was a great movie. But also in The Office, she's in like 2 episodes or 2 or 3 episodes of The Office. So again, it's just tough. Yeah, it's tough for me to put some of these people in. With Matt Smith, he's played so many different characters, and I feel like they're going to do something different with him because I've only seen him so far in House of Dragons. There's a new movie that's coming out that he's like, I think either a co-star or one of the main actors in it. That looks pretty good, but he's got like a mohawk, so he doesn't look, like he does in some of these other ones where I think Amy Allen is going to look like Amy Allen no matter what they do to her. And then some of the other actors here, even Mia Goth, don't think I've seen her in anything, and then some of these other guys here, I don't remember seeing them in anything either. Do you guys know any of these other actors I guess actress is just Amy, but that Aaron Pierre?
Yeah, I've definitely seen Aaron Pierre and stuff, but I can't recall what.
So I'm looking now, and it looks like Mufasa. I'm assuming, obviously, is a voice from
Probably.
something in Mufasa. All the other movies look pretty B and C list.
Okay.
Okay.
I feel
What
like I
about
saw him on
Flint?
like a streaming service movie of some kind. That was pretty good.
Oh, he's in the
What?
movie Brother. Um,
Well, there's Mike.
oh, Mike's here.
There he is.
Hey.
Mikey, what's up? He
What's
likes it. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Here we're talking Starfighter, so I had to, hop in.
We're just doing just talking about some of the actors and actresses that are going to be in there, and Derek was obviously very excited for Amy, which I think she's a great actress, but I look at her as Lois Lane, or even I forget what her name was on The Office, and that's the hard part for me. Where with Matt, I think it's a little bit different because he looks so different in each of the roles that he plays. I think, and then the other people I really don't know too well.
Yeah, that's always the issue with Star Wars. That's why George always casted people who weren't that big of stars, because you'd think of Luke Skywalker as Luke Skywalker, not as Mark Hamill for his other roles. And that is true to an extent, but you still have your Mace Windu's, your Count Dooku's, your even Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan, even Qui-Gon Jinn. Like, you still have your big time actors who've been in Star Wars. They're usually not the main characters like Ryan Gosling and Matt Smith here. The cool one to me was Aaron Pierre, because I don't know much about the guy, but he's gonna be one of the Green Lanterns. I forget which one, but he's gonna be a Green Lantern in the upcoming Lanterns series for DC. So he's gonna be a big character moving forward for the DC universe. So he'll be
now. Is that a big
star in a
movie?
couple
Or is that going to be like a live action?
It's a live action series actually on HBO that comes out early next year.
Oh,
so
on HBO, huh?
Yeah. So there's that. And I mean, the new DC looks like their characters are just going to cross over left and right. So he'll have a big couple years coming up. He'll probably be in like the next Superman movie and stuff like that. So, and then he'll be in Star Wars.
Yeah. And then some of these other ones, I don't. Does anybody know any of these other guys that, or what they're?
All I care about is Amy Adams.
Well, one of the big concerns actually when this dropped was a few of the names. Jameel Westman, the bottom three there. Those three, Daniel and what's the? I can't see that. Simon, yeah. Those three are known for being like comedy actors, and I mean, I guess a lot of these people have been in comedies just before, but the concern is Sean Levy, because he's directed so many Ryan Reynolds movies, which are all just these funny Deadpool and Wolverines, or like the Free Guy on Netflix. They're all like comedies. So the concern was that it would be a little too funny and jokey and whatever, but he's also done some more serious stuff, or even comedies that have more serious undertones to it. So I'm not concerned about Sean Levy. I actually think he's a great guy to come over to Star Wars specifically. But that was the concern with at least the bottom row there, because they're all just, I guess, known for comedies.
Yeah, the guy in the middle, it looks like I've seen him before in something. So hey, Zima and Pam, thanks for joining us. I was also reading today. So I don't know if he is going to be let's see. Okay, so he is a writer on Starfighter. Is Jonathan Topper. Are you guys familiar with him at all?
I did some research on him, but no, not really. But yeah, I think he's the head writer.
Yeah, so he did this series called Banshee. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. It was on Max, and it was from, I think, like 13 to 16, and it was some pretty graphic fighting. It was some pretty violent stuff. A lot of sexual content, which was pretty interesting to see that he's gonna be involved in this. I mean, he's got some other stuff too, which again, he did the Atom Project with yeah, you know, and then some other television things. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to this, because there's a lot of different things that we're going to get, I think, in this whole new thing with the two of them doing this. It's going to be interesting, because I don't, like you've talked about before, Mike, I don't think we need some, you know, there's enough comedy and one-liners in Star Wars already, and I think they fit perfectly. You have some good things, but for us to do, which I don't think he's going to do a Wolverine and Deadpool, but hopefully it won't be too goofy. And I also think, again, I don't think that this Jonathan Topper, if he brings some good stuff in here, if he's one of the head writers, it'll be somewhere down the middle, where we're going to have some death. Obviously, we know that, which is Mike's favorite thing.
Of course,
predict people that are going to die.
Love it.
But I think it'll be interesting with both of these guys doing this, and it's a standalone right now that we know of, where I think they're still going to have, even though, like you said before, Mike, the standalone Rogue One was a standalone, but it ties into so many different things.
Yeah. I'm not, I guess, like you said, I love a good death, but no, I don't think like this is good. I think it being standalone is just that it's a new story. Like, it's not connected to what came before, and it will be probably a little bit, but not like drastically. It's like how Cassian and Jyn Erso and even Krennic, they're not connected to anything before, but then once they're established, they are. So like moving forward or backwards, you'll probably get more stories with Ryan Gosling's character and Matt Smith's character. Hopefully he's not just a one and done guy because he's such a big name. But yeah.
Well, like we said last week, it's probably a launch pad for like a whole new time frame that we're getting into later. That doesn't mean it has to be directly related to like whatever the main story is for the next trilogy or whatever the plan is, but I think it'll like tie us in the same way Mandalorian was also a standalone that has now blossomed into an entire era of many shows and movies now. So I think it'll be like that. I can't imagine they'll retain a cast like that for like multiple, things unless it's huge, if it kills, that'd be awesome. And I'll also throw out there that it might be okay if it is a little not goofy, but if it does have some humor to it, considering that they've kind of talked about taking more swings at Andor style projects in the future, where I think they'll probably balance that the same way that Skeleton Crew kind of balanced Andor this year in its sort of levity, and it was still an interesting Star Wars story, but it was a little light compared to the depth of Andor. So time will tell. I don't think we'll be very accurate in our speculations until we see it, but
No.
And this is going to be what, 5 years after Skywalker?
Yeah,
generally, yeah.
And then the Rey movie is supposed to be 15.
It is, but I think that'll change just based off of when this takes place.
Okay.
I think it'll be a lot closer to Starfighter if the two are connected. That's the thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I think Nick was on the right track where he's talking about how this is like Mando for this time period. Like, this is the start off point for this post-sequel time, just like Mando was the kickstart for the middle of originals and sequels. The Mandalorian and Grogu movie is now coming out next year. That's 6 years after the first official Mandoverse project. So if Starfighter is kicking this off, then it would make sense that the Rey movie would take place further down the line, like maybe 5 or 6 or maybe 10 at most years later, but 15 years sounds like a pretty far way away. So I think a lot of the Rey movie is still up in the air, so I think that timeline will change.
I could see the timeline in universe being very similar to however long it is actually between Rise of Skywalker's release and its release.
Yeah. Well, they also always compare, or Dave Filoni recently has been comparing the future of Star Wars with of what Marvel and Kevin Feige did with Marvel for the first 3 phases. And when it came to Marvel, other than Captain America and Captain Marvel, all those projects took place in the timeline in reality. So
right.
if that lines up. Yeah. So like 2008's Iron Man was in 2008, and then so on and so on. So obviously Star Wars doesn't take place in 2025, but I agree with you. I think there'll be a year between in reality. Well, there's a year between in actual Star Wars land. So the Rey movie will likely be probably 6 or 7 or maybe 8 years after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one, I think they might even tie in some of those characters like we just talked about,
Yeah.
where you have some of them big name people, or even if it's just Ryan Gosling's nephew at this point, from there, maybe 3, 4, 5 more years, even 10 more years, he's going to be at that perfect age to train with Ray.
Yeah.
If they do that. But I think you're right. I think that they will probably bring it a little bit closer in reference to the Starfighter, because I think it's going to do well. I really think with both of these guys, with Jonathan, even in their writing as well. But I think they're both going to do a great job, and I think it's going to be a smash because these guys have pretty much. I mean, I didn't think Dark Phoenix was as bad as everybody says it is. I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular, but it wasn't one of the best ones. But it was watchable, I thought. Some people might disagree, but I thought it was okay, and I think that he's done enough other stuff that has been fantastic, where these guys are going to take this Star Wars. And again, you're not going to have Kathleen Kennedy or Dave. These guys and girls aren't going to let this stuff come out if it's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, I think it has a few things. It's way too early for me to be calling anything, but I think it has a few things really going for it. Whereas Sean Levy and the cast, I think will be really good for box office Star Wars again. Obviously, I think Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be great, but that's already kind of steeped in a story already. I feel like this would be a good get casual fans back into it and also be entertaining. Yeah. Whereas I think it for people like us or people like our show, we'll be dissecting maybe the events or the themes of the movie that are setting up future stuff. So I don't think we'll see Ryan Gosling or any of the big people, maybe Matt Smith in the future stuff. But I think some of the things that are occurring in the story will kind of push us into that era of storytelling rather than specific characters hopping over like they're in the Mandoverse. I think this is going to bring us sort of the building out the world of this next phase of stories and maybe presenting the potential problem or kind of giving us a little bit of a breadcrumb trail to what may happen,
Yeah, what you're kind of describing is if the original trilogy didn't exist and Rogue One came out. If Rogue One came out, all those characters sacrificed themselves to start this catalyst of a story. The bad guys, Vader, Tarkin, they're all still there, so Matt Smith could survive on. And then if Ryan Gosling doesn't survive or doesn't go to the next project, the events of what they did will kickstart the next phase. Mm-hmm. And that sounds awesome to me. Sign me up for that.
Or if nothing else, even if it's self-contained, I feel like it's just the way Star Wars is. They'll drop things for us to go crazy about for 3 years.
Yep.
That will kind of hint at, I remember going crazy over the Necromancer stuff before we knew it was called Necromancer and being and it took 5 years to actually get half of an answer about it. Yeah. And so I think if nothing else, it'll be pretty rich with those while still very entertaining, probably for a very broad audience. And I think we'll probably need to keep that hat on when we're watching it, because I'm sure there'll be moments where we're really famous person might take us out of Star Wars for a hot second. We got to reel ourselves back in, but I'm confident it'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that happens now. When you watch The Mandalorian and you see Grief Karga as Carl Weathers, and you're like, that's the guy from Rocky, and you're like, well, wait, what's going on? But
it's Chubbs.
It doesn't, and Chubb, but it doesn't really take you out of it as much because again, they're not the main characters, I guess. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see Ryan Gosling as the big poster boy. But I guess that was the same with Jude Law in Skeleton Crew. But I guess he's also arguably not the main character in that either. Yeah.
Well, and maybe he won't be. I mean, I know they're putting him out there, but maybe this nephew, this new kid will obviously going to be a co-star in reference to that, and same with Amy Allen or
Adams.
Obviously she's big enough where it's not going to be they're not going to put her in for 3 scenes and then that's it. Obviously she's going to have a big role in this along with Matt and So it'll be interesting to see if Ryan is as a main character as we think he's going to be, or if this kid, like with Jude Law, we all thought, where there's, those kids were just as, I thought, as main characters as he was.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up the kid. I've seen this theory running around now for a couple of days. I don't know if I like it or not. I'm honestly leaning towards hating it. But what if the kid is Broom Boy from The Last Jedi? Yeah, I already see Nick saying yeah.
No.
Okay, well, before you guys go crap on it, because I don't like it either. The evidence is a little bit too much. First of all, if you put the two side by side, he looks like an older version of Broom Boy, but the age-wise does match up. This kid's supposed to be playing a 13, 14-year-old. Broom Boy was 7 in The Last Jedi, and this is about 7 years after that. So the age would line up. And I mean, we're all assuming that this kid's going to be force sensitive, because why else would people be hunting him down? So if he's force sensitive, so was Broom Boy, and he does have the same eye color and hair color and look kind of like him.
That's
all right. So let me ask you guys, why is that not okay? Or why do you think that that's stupid? Or because I mean, I'd be okay with that, because obviously they put that in there for a reason. There is
Nick was way too mad.
Get out of here.
No, Broom Boy, no.
I wouldn't be mad if it happened. It's just to me, it's like, I don't know. It's just a reminder of a movie that I just did not love, and a part that I was like,
Well, that's the problem, I think, too, is if that is the case and he is Broom Boy, then a lot of people have that same reaction. If they didn't like The Last Jedi, they'll go, that's a movie I didn't like. This kid, it's connection to that. I'm not a fan. But the issue with that is, moving forward in this post-sequel world, there's going to be a ton of connections to the sequel trilogy. So if Broom Boy, this tiny little kid on Canto Bight, can't be passed over to another project, then how are fans going to react to, like, well, the Rey movie? Like, how is that going to go over? It's going to be
and
a war zone.
We have to take a step back, because just today, one of the kids, the tech center in my tech center that I run, was watching Last Jedi, and he loved it.
Yeah, I will say, Derek, I have the same conclusion from the opposite direction as you, and it's because I actually have a little bit of a soft spot for The Last Jedi. And I think that the Broom Boy thing was a really stupid fan reaction, in my opinion. That, like, I think showing the Broom Boy was just like symbolic, didn't mean anything. It was just like
that's what I thought when it happened.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Who is Broom Boy?" And it's like, I think the point is that it's like there are big galaxy out there. People are hopeful, tides turning, whatever, and there's people out there. And I thought that it at the time really drove home what I thought was a good way to go, which is Rey is nobody, and she has to be okay with that. Because Broom Boy is nobody, and he's, shoveling shit. So, like, I feel like that's good enough. Like, that's a nice symbolic thing. Luke, as far as he knew, was nobody. Obviously, he wasn't. But I think it kind of like captured a vibe, and I didn't like how everyone was like, we need to know what happens to Broom Boy. We need to know who he's related to. We need to know who becomes his master and all this stuff. And I was like, man, that's lamer than the movie, like that kind of stuff. So
maybe he just got trampled by something.
Yeah. Derek, do a poll, Derek. Do we want Broom Boy to be in?
I'm so excited for this poll.
Well, going back to what Nick was talking about too, because it's sort of what we do all the time here, is we love to nitpick and dive into every little detail when it comes to Star Wars projects. So Broom Boy was like the perfect example of that, of this character is force sensitive and we want to know more about it. So that's why the three run around. It's very similar to Snoke. Now, obviously, he's not ruling the galaxy, Broom Boy, that is, not yet, but he is a force user. A mystery about his character and his whereabouts, where he came from, that's intriguing to people. So Broom Boy stuff, I wasn't really like theorizing on who Broom Boy would be, or if his dad was like Obi-Wan or something. No, but I agree with you that it did prove the point of there's Force users across the galaxy. There's hope across the galaxy. There's a growing rebellion still across the galaxy, even though nobody comes to help on Crate in The Last Jedi. But I will say that it's honestly, it would be making the galaxy feel too small if this kid was Broom Boy. I agree with that. But also, it could allow you to tell the Rey story, which they tried to do, and it actually be nobody. Because Broom Boy could actually be nobody. So this new Force user, or maybe Broom Boy just eventually, like, this whole movie could be getting the nephew to Rey's Jedi Temple, much like Din Djarin was trying to get Grogu to a Jedi in season 2. That could be the end goal, if he is Force sensitive, that is. So maybe Broom Boy eventually ends up at Rey's Jedi Temple.
Or
Sean just said
somebody
that.
finds him thinking that he had Force abilities, and it turns out there was just a really big gust of wind. So he really is nobody.
Yeah.
That'd be even better.
But we come up with stupid names like that all the time, where it's like Broom Boy. I mean, if he had a better name, if it was, if there's whatever, if it was just
Broombus Boyderton.
but I think even Sean said that, Mike. Where we might be taking this kid and dropping him, with Rey, to be trained or something like that. If that's where they're going with this whole thing, and yeah, is it a fan, whatever we call it, to put that in there, he uses the Force and he grabs a broom, or is it something that, hey, they've already got these concepts? Because I think a lot of this stuff is already, whether it's in files somewhere or somebody's already brought some of these things to Dave or to Kathleen Kennedy, and then they're no, we're gonna put this in the back shelf, or hey, you know what, we got this really cool story, but hey, at the end of Scott, let's have this kid grab this broom with the Force, and then when we come out with this new movie, we can tie it in to him as well. So again, same with like the things we were talking about with the new Lego thing coming out. Are they building something up for Cal Kestis? Are they building something up for Darth Revan? I don't think they're just putting this shit out there just for fun of it. Oh, hey, let's put Cal Kestis in Legos and let's, do this. I think a lot of this stuff that we've talked about before and we talk about every week is we're going to get answers to a lot of these questions. It might not be for a year or two. I mean, again, I had to wait 3 years to find out, more about freaking, Darth Vader being Luke's father. It was like, what the hell? We talk about waiting for a week, oh, we got a new episode coming out next week and we had a cliffhanger. I'm like, you know what? This is great compared to the 80s.
That is funny. Actually, just kind of off topic, but on that, me and Sam, my girlfriend Sam, are watching the Clone Wars, and we're on the second to last episode of season 5. So where Ahsoka's being framed for the bombing, and she wants to know so badly how it ends, and we only have one episode. I was like, nope, you gotta wait till tomorrow. And she's like, tomorrow? I was like, yeah, you would have had to wait at least a week. And I was like, and if it was the original trilogy, you have to wait 3 years.
No, well, even with the new ones, when the prequels came out,
3 years.
I think they were 2 or 3 years, apart as well.
They're 99, 02, and 05.
Yeah. Well, also going on that point, the Rey movie, at least the latest that we heard from it, and it's been a while, but the rumor was that she's not even going to be the main character. We're just calling it the Rey movie because Daisy Ridley was announced to come back. It's more likely that she's going to play a Obi-Wan, Alec Guinness Obi-Wan type of character who's more the mentor. So it could be that Starfighter is establishing this young nephew child to be a Force-sensitive kid, and maybe he's the main character moving forward. That's why they got such a young actor, because when he ages up quickly, because kids do, then you can have the story of Rey's movie be years later, and the kid can look years older because it's been years since they filmed. So maybe he's going to be the new main guy moving forward, and Rey's just going to be the mentor who trains him. And I'm sure there'll be other new main characters, not just one, but that could be the case too, where Rey movie is not actually Rey movie. It's just the beginning of the next story.
It's the Rose movie. Rose is the new star.
Yes.
Well, and
if you guys laugh at that, I'd be really excited. Everybody wants it.
I think they're trying to bring, again, new fans in. Nick was talking about, I mean, even as we go along and we talk about all this stuff every week, and since I've started this channel, I really have started to come around with the sequels.
Oh,
and,
me too.
And again, just with the, like we always talk about Shadow of the Sith. And when you have this stuff, like Nick was saying, Mandalorian, his girlfriend, those are her favorite movies. She loved them. I thought they were great. So we have to, some of these people that are bitching and moaning about, this or that, or Kathleen Kennedy, it's like, we're still getting Star Wars. We're not going to have 55 movies and live actions about Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So let's
not with that attitude. We're not.
Let's open up our minds a little bit.
And my thing too, like watching Last Jedi, which is my least favorite of all the Star Wars movies. Just watching, it's like, this movie's beautiful though. Like, it is. The scene with the Praetorian Guards, that's why I said it maybe last week or the week before. If I got to pick a new Star Wars story, I want to know more about the Praetorian Guards. And like, those guys are so awesome. They're so badass. Like they're like keeping up with Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff that is really cool in that movie.
To your point about the Praetorians, when they walk in Mando season 3, you already then kind of have this like built-in like, I kind of know what these guys are, and I'm a little afraid for my heroes here.
Yep.
And we still don't know who they are or where they come from. They're just like, Gideon's like, hey, please, I need like 3 of them. And they're like, okay, we'll give them to you. And then they come in and they're kind of scary until the end. But
I forgot about that. What are they in?
So
Mando?
So they have the Shadow Council meeting. Gideon says,
"That's right.
We're not waiting for Thrawn. I'm taking the bull by the horns here, but I would appreciate if you sent me Praetorian Guard,
that's right,
squad." And then they show up when they're like in the hangar, and the big like chain gunner dude stays back to fight him, and they kill him. And they walk in with this big choir, and it's really weird, and you finally see them and you're like, oh, I've seen those guys before, and these guys do know what they're doing. It's not like these ones where you never actually see them in action. They just look cool. Like we've already seen them in action. So I feel like it hit harder because you see that Last Jedi scene and go, wow. But
and Paz Vizsla was the one who died there. But funny you bring up the Praetorian Guards, because I'm looking at this thing that just popped up on my screen from 3 hours ago. This week, because Wednesdays is when the comic books drop, this week's Legacy of Vader comic gave us a lot more Knights of Ren, but also Praetorian Guards.
Well, and we have the new Vader novel coming out in November.
That too. And the excerpt from that. But this is like sort of a flashback, it looks like, where in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody in the chat, because I know I'm not following the Legacy of Vader comics too well. But there is like some fight happening between this new leader of the Knights of Ren versus Kylo Ren. And so what this looks to me is that she is describing the events that took place right after Kylo executes Order 66 on Luke's Jedi Temple and what happens after that. So, and how Snoke sort of steals him away from the Knights of Ren. But the Praetorian Guards are in this image with Snoke and First Order troopers as they are fighting against the Knights of Ren. So that looks insanely cool. I don't know how I can send this to you, Ron, but you have to show this on screen.
Okay.
Right now.
Email it to me and I'll.
Oh yeah, I'll email it to you. Okay.
Is Jacob, are you still on here? Do you have any insight on the comics? I was actually talking today. They had the comic released it, so they have, looks like September 10th, and he already had some of these on pre-order, but September 10th you have Jedi Knights #7, and then Tales from the Nightlands #1, and then on September 17th is new Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett Black, White, Red #1, and then Star Wars #25. And these are all new ones coming out. So he might. I know he's working, but he had jumped on. He's the comic guy, and he's given me a stack about that big that I have to start going through to read some of these things. But,
the thing with comics is, unless you have like the Marvel Ultimate thing, which is like a online monthly subscription, which is cool, I'd rather have the physical copies, but the physical copies are so expensive. It's like $4 per comic, which is ridiculous.
You gotta, for some of them, like the Vader Down series, you kind of have to wait for them to come out. And what do they call them, where they're all together?
Yeah.
I remember what they're called.
Yeah.
But because then once they're out for a little bit, they put them all together and you can just run right through them. But
yeah,
individually, it's kind of an investment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah, I got those. So I'm gonna put those things up. You guys have let's see that one.
This is just pretty cool. Just because you mentioned the Praetorian Guards, and I saw this.
Yeah, it's pretty. That's pretty awesome. And this just dropped.
This is just a comic that came out today, and this is just. It says this week's Legacy Vader number 8 reveals what happened to the Knights of Ren after they appeared in the vision sequence in The Force Awakens.
So during Rey's vision, where they're in the rain.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
The infamous J.J. Abrams mystery box.
Yes.
Here, let's see if this works. There we go.
Cards. Look how good they look. Yeah,
I know.
I got my Funko Pop ones.
That's so cool. So this is pretty much what I'm gathering is Snoke is calling Kylo away from the Knights of Ren. He's like, it's time to come with me now. And then this next one here is them fighting the First Order to survive, pretty much, because their leader is leaving them.
Dang.
So this is like
Jacob's got stuff up there now.
Yeah.
Tava, Jacob says, or Tava.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I think this is probably her explaining what happened, or Kylo maybe explaining what happened. But that's awesome. We never got enough Knights of Ren. I mean, they're so cool in The Force Awakens. They're barely actually. Are they even in The Last Jedi at all?
I don't think so.
I don't think they have a single second. But in Rise of Skywalker, they just kind of hang out and then die. But their death is cool. They die to Ben Solo. But yeah, they didn't get nearly enough screen time, and they were way more important than they got shown on screen.
They were also not like even outside of the movies really explained at all.
There was deleted scenes with them too, right?
Yeah, and we were all kind of like assuming there'd be, at least a good amount of like comic or like mention in novels that were coming out, and there really wasn't a whole lot other than like explaining Kylo Ren's general experience of them. And so I just recall during sequel time of them coming out, like a lot of there he is.
I don't know what happened.
I thought
the whole thing went down.
No, we're still here. We're still good. There was just a lot of like unknown of like what are even these guys. And I think Jacob and I were talking a few weeks ago about, I think there was even a question of, were the Knights of Ren also students from Luke at the time? Because there wasn't anything. And there's some weird pieces of dialogue that kind of hint that way. But now we're getting all of it. And I just, like Mike just said, I wish it were on screen, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, too, they showed up way earlier in the timeline now in the War of the Bounty Hunter comic run they were working with Kira in the Crimson Dawn. Like, this is...
And they've been around a while, like legendary.
This is original trilogy time period. This is when they're around. So they've been around for a long, long time here.
You think we'll get them in Shadow Lord?
Well, actually, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Leave it to Dave Filoni to try and tie up some loose ends, but I really don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. The fact that they were with Kira in the Crimson Dawn, a connection to the Crimson Dawn, maybe, but I have no clue.
Probably depends where Crimson Dawn would be at in Shadow Lord, like where we're hopping into it. But
I'm guessing that's Luke. Luke did say Ben.
That's what
it's just Snoke.
That's what I thought he said, and Jacob and I were going back and forth a few weeks ago on that. And there is in the Force Awakens visual dictionary, I'm pretty sure it says, when he puts his helmet down when he's interrogating Rey and there's like dust, that's like the ashes of some of the people at Luke's temple.
Oh yeah,
and
I did remember that.
So it's kind of confusing reading that and being like, so what happened? Did people like leave with him and then he turned on them, or did people get away and where are they? And like all those kind of questions popped up, and then it kind of dropped forever, and then we just assumed he killed everybody and left. But
that's
could be a nice little storyline of like, all right, all this went down, but we know people who had training went off and got lost. So what are they doing now? And are there different like sects of Force user religions out there that were, hanging out? Who knows? And is Rey trying to find them?
Yeah, it just says here that J.J. Abrams explained that Kylo Ren's ashes on the table were ashes of the enemies that he's killed. So that's pretty crazy. Like, Kylo Ren in that Force Awakens movie is awesome. He's so badass.
Oh yeah.
Opening scene when he stops the blaster bolt in midair, it's like, oh god, what are we in for?
Yeah, if you go back and for me and you have to put some of that stuff aside. They really are good movies. The cinematography, the Easter eggs that we get from those three movies are fantastic, and we get some cool characters out of that. I mean, we get to see our the OGs, with Luke, Leia, and Han and Chewie. We get a little Lando, C-3PO, and R2-D2, but we have some really cool characters that they bring in to fruition with us. I mean, Babu Frick is one of my freaking favorites.
Love Babu Frick. I love him. But we've talked about this before.
Like, see that.
Look at how much we've changed on Acolyte and how much the public has changed. Like, I was talking with my brother and my nephew this weekend, and they were kind of being, the Acolyte. And then I was like, yo, look at this and this and this. And I'm like, let's watch another episode. And we watched an episode, and they were like, oh,
yeah.
Wait, so I just didn't like the publicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't either.
People were just being convinced that the Acolyte was going to be bad before it even happened. And then they were already on board with the fact that it was going to be bad. So anything that happened, and there was the whole it's going to retcon Star Wars, and it never did. But it was always it is going to be bad. It's always in the future, and then it never happened after 8 episodes. So and then people went, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Again, like that's where they just had kind of a PR nightmare with the cast and director, and I think had that not happened, we'd have a season 2, and maybe not. I don't know.
I think you definitely with a good. Think about it this way: if we got the Acolyte where the cast and crew were all saying like all the right things that like Jon Favreau says all the time, like talking about George and how he just pretty much saying the right things and not saying crazy things. I think when just you get shown the Acolyte without all that stuff behind it, people would go, holy crap, this is really good. The lightsaber duels are awesome. I want to see more of this, more Plagueis, more of that, more of this. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'll
and the Acolyte did it, and I think it stinks that it got that bad rap because it's so good, and it could have gone into 2-3 seasons easily, like we've talked about before on this with Palpatine, even doing a young Palpatine. If you go into, even skipping 3 to 5 years or whatever, I guess we'd have to go a little bit further than that. But, to bring in, a young Palpatine, and it would have been so cool to bring in some of that. And again, figure out who the stranger is. get some more information on him, and build that, where obviously he goes somewhere before the original trilogy or even before The Force Awakens. Obviously he's, come and gone at that point.
Well, he's probably dead before the prequels if it's 100 years.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
but did he die? How did he die?
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, there was the rumors going around when the show was coming out that he was already over 100 years old because of Vanestra being really old too, and her being surprised that he was still alive. And there was something more to that, but I forget what it was, why they thought he was so old. But I think
the stranger.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was like, that was it. There was a theory that he was a character from the High Republic books. I forget what his name was. But he was a youngling or not a youngling, but an apprentice or something with Vanestra Rowe at the time. So that would make him like over 100 years old. And of course, the dark side works in mysterious ways. But yeah, I don't know. I think he was probably older than he was made to look, but he definitely wouldn't survive till the prequels. I think either Palpatine or Plagueis or somebody else would kill him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to throw in something that we don't in our typical acolyte hour that we don't really. I'm just realizing we don't really touch on is I think all the hate for the acolyte might have robbed us of an entire batch of like High Republic era stories. Like I think they might have been testing the water to like bring to life because now that whole run's over. This High Republic novel and comic run is done.
Oh, no, that's sad.
Yeah,
Novels were great.
They were, and for whatever reason, I feel like other than like people who are already pretty active, like novel readers in Star Wars, other than that, like people didn't really care about them in the casual fan space. And this might have been like kind of the way to test, like, could we make High Republic era stuff without it being confusing or, like capture people's attention? And this might have killed that too.
Well, I think,
or at least delayed it.
Yeah, I think again, marketing is a problem too. Cause like I was just at Barnes and Noble this weekend and saw them in like the young adult section. And I know they were really gearing that heavy to the young adult reader. And like, I've read a lot of them and I don't get that vibe. I'm like, these are right on par with the rest of the Star Wars novels.
Yeah.
Like, so like to me, the artwork looks too kid-like on the covers. And then marketing them as young adult and putting them in that section and not the sci-fi section of bookstores is probably didn't help them. I know it didn't help them.
Yeah, I don't think Lucasfilm likes to spend much money on marketing the books anyway. I feel like they understand that fans of the novels are just going to go read the novels regardless. But I agree with you. I think the High Republic deserved a lot more marketing than it got.
Well, and it sits right next to a bunch of like the Disney approved stories. They're not from Disney, but like you have like the different, like the Twisted Tales series of like all the different princesses, but in a different way. And I don't know if they were like, if that was an intentional thing to keep them around that same kind of area, trying to get that same market, maybe a different market. But like, I think they're great novels. Every one of them that I've read, I loved. I thought the storyline was fantastic.
And they built out an entire era of Star Wars that people who are fans of it love. And it's kind of like a lot of lore in a time frame that no one was asking for.
Yeah.
Like we were asking for Old Republic. We didn't really consider this like time of, what it is, like the pinnacle of, what the Republic and the Jedi were supposed to be. And then it's descent into what we get in the prequels over a couple centuries.
Right. And I love that there's different bad guys and there's like different threats, and it's not the Sith, even though I love the Sith. Like don't quote me on this, but like even though it's not the Sith, I really love that.
Yeah. Well, and it shows like what the Jedi have actually been doing. They haven't been clashing with the Sith or fighting a clone war forever. It's like
they're just being corrupt like Jedi do.
Yeah. But like also like what they're being dispatched. They have these, what do you call them? What do they call them? Like they have bases everywhere.
Outposts.
Outposts, and it's very interesting. And
Starlight Beacon.
Yeah, and if Acolyte is dead or delayed, so is anything that we could get from that era.
Yeah, it
So
does look like
reading-
this. Oh, go ahead.
I just want Mike. Have you read them as well?
I read all of Phase 1, all of the main 3 books. Because they did it weird, where there was like a trilogy of books for adults or whatever, and there was the young adult books, which was like either 4 or 5, or maybe it was 3, depending on the phase. There was different ones, and then there was like 5 really young kid books or something like that, and then there was some comics. So I read the top 6 or 7, whatever it was. It was the main 3, and then the young adult ones I read, and they all like Derek was saying, they establish a lot of great new characters, and the stories themselves are really, really good. Like by the end of the trilogy itself, the actual main trilogy, there was characters like Avar Kriss and Elzar Mann, who were quickly becoming like 2 of my favorite characters in a long time, but I just never got into. The problem was Phase 1 was 250 years before, and then Phase 2 was a prequel, and it was a prequel long before it. So it took, it didn't even get me hooked, because I already knew these characters from Phase 1, and I knew none of them, or maybe one older guy was going to be in the prequels. So I really wasn't like that intrigued. And then Phase 2 came out, Phase 3 came out, and I was like, I'm so far behind. I'll catch up eventually, and I never did. But Phase 1, from what I got, was really good. They established a brand new cast of Jedi, cast of villains, cast of all this stuff, and it's not Sith, like you said, but it does establish that we can have a Jedi Order that aren't fighting Sith. So for like Rey's post-sequel order, the bad guy doesn't have to be a Sith Lord. Technically, they've figured out ways to create cool bad guys that don't have to be Sith Lords, which is kind of cool. But I agree with you, Nick. I think if the Acolyte was a success, we get a lot more High Republic stuff. And they made a drastic shift from that to more Mando, more sequels.
I mean, yeah, you're right, Mike. We got so many great characters from that. You had who all did you say? Did you say Marchion Ro or no?
No, Marchion Ro was the bad guy. He was awesome.
Right. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
Stellan Gios.
Oh, Stellan Gios is great too. But the way they established like the fact that hyperlanes and who created them, the coolest thing I thought when I read the first book was the Marchion Ro was using, now I can't remember her name at all. Santeca. Was it Santeca?
Let me look.
I think it was a Santeca. I don't know her first name, but it was a really old lady, last name Santeca. And I was like, I know the name Santeca. I don't know from where, but I know the name Santeca. I looked it up. It's the old guy. Well, his last name is the old guy from the opening scene of The Force Awakens, who gives Poe Dameron the map to Luke Skywalker. And immediately I was hooked. I was like, this is awesome. His great grandmother, or whatever this is the one who created mapped out the hyperspace lanes. That is so cool. And so the Santeca name is like this famous name across the galaxy, because they're the ones who mapped out the hyperspace lanes, because they just risked their lives going through random lanes, hoping they don't hit a planet or something. And they mapped out all the lanes. And that was awesome. And it allowed the bad guys to jump in and out of hyperspace lanes and just attack Jedi where they don't expect it. Like, it was so cool.
Fun fact, Lord Santeca also created the Church of the Force during the Empire and had an underground railroad of people who were supportive of the Jedi, and was when they were being lied on.
Well, that's the thing. And I'm going to bring it back to the poll in the chat, because I don't know what the poll's at. Does anybody know what the poll's at?
Oh, yeah. The poll is at 43% yes and 57% no.
Wow, that's way closer than I thought. But
I know.
For the people who are saying no, the people who are saying no, I say, we're talking about the Lore Santecas, this random old guy from The Force Awakens, who now we know established this cool underground railroad thing in the original trilogy, whose great grandparents established the hyperspace lanes. Why can't Broom Boy be the next main character? But no, it is really cool when you have those links to characters that you just never knew before, and they establish it in such a cool way.
This rabbit hole kind of
he's in Shadow of the Sith too, isn't he? They mentioned him.
Yes, because he's like helping Luke with his temple.
Yeah, which is really cool. But so the books that you're talking about are 150 years before even Acolyte.
Yeah, so they're 250 years before Phantom Menace.
Okay,
So
so there's no
Acolyte,
characters that you guys have read about that were in the Acolyte.
Vernestra. Yeah.
That's it. But she was only in like just a small part, correct? Or was she a pretty?
She's a youngling at the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was young in the first that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think when they were propping up the Acolyte, they were kind of mentioning that the Acolyte is kind of the end, like the bookend of the High Republic era.
Yeah.
Which kind of insinuated, I don't know, if to us maybe that, like, okay, there must be a story to tell leading, that 100 years from Acolyte to Phantom Menace, or even prior to the Acolyte. Like, they wouldn't make all the, like you said earlier, Ron, they wouldn't go through the money and trouble to put out an entire era of stuff without at least shooting some shots on it, even if it was animation or whatever.
Oh, we got another vote. We're 50-50. This is awful, folks.
I did not think it'd be that close at all.
I'm swaying voters. I'm swaying voters.
And you
Mike,
said
you're
you might
awful.
hate it.
Exactly, and I might hate it still.
Yeah.
But it is
We're
a great
definitely gonna have
tag. Like the
to-
back of this book says, the back of the book, the tag is for 1,000 years, for 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were guardians of peace and justice. Like, you want to know what that was like. Even if there's no Sith Lords, you want to know what they were doing for thousands of generations. Like, what were they up to? And you have characters that you know, like Vernestra, who's in the Acolyte, or Yoda. The coolest part about this, at least in phase 1, is that Yoda's just off doing something. You don't really know what it is. He's just off doing something. You're like, Yoda's the best. Where is he? And he's never really a part of the story. But it is, makes me want to go read phase 2 and phase 3, honestly, right now.
It was also kind of frustrating because they put out like artwork with Yoda in it looking kind of like slightly younger, and then he's not really in it.
Yeah, that is true. Yoda's a character like Vader now in live action. You don't want to overuse him, so they wanted to tell a whole story about when he's sort of younger, and they didn't want him to be overused and maybe ruin the character, I guess.
Yeah.
They could always jump into Yaddle some more.
Yes, true.
Grogu.
Well, I think Yaddle was a lot younger than Yoda, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, I just think the High Republic books, the stories themselves, the books, I believe like 3 or 4 of them were New York Times bestseller. I don't know what you have to do to get that, but I don't think they sold very well for the most part. I have heard that the finale, the big climactic third phase, was really, really good. I don't know how close in the timeline that is to the beginning of the Acolyte, so I don't know if any of those characters are involved or connected.
Yeah, I'm not there yet either.
Yeah, I'll have to catch up, I guess.
That's sort of interesting.
Oh, wait. The planet Brendok in the Acolyte was also a planet damaged during the Great Hyperspace Disaster. Really? Interesting. I like that. So Brendok was the one where the girls were made, or no? Yeah.
Brendok is where, Brendok / the girls are a virgins in the Force because it shouldn't have had life ever, and now it does.
Yes. Well, I mentioned this on my live stream yesterday because I read the excerpt from the upcoming Vader novel, but
Master of Evil.
Yes, it sounds awesome. They're talking
know
the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. It's more Palpatine torturing Vader and stuff, but they talk about the virgins on Mustafar, where Vader goes into where he bleeds his kyber crystal in the cave. That's in the comics. I don't know if it's also going to be. I don't know if it's also going to be explained in this book too, because this excerpt is pretty much the conversation that happened right after that with Palpatine and Vader. I'm not too sure, but talking about virginses, there's a Virgins of the Force there on Mustafar in that cave. There's one on Dagobah in the cave where Luke goes to see himself as Vader. And I don't think it's confirmed. Maybe it is. I'm not too sure. But the cave on Ahch-To where Rey goes in, I'm sure that's a Virgins too. So this idea of this Virgins in the Force, and even in the Acolyte, they make it look like the big hole in the ground like it does on Ahch-To that Rey falls into. So exploring more of that would be pretty cool. So that's what actually has me really excited about that Vader novel.
Mike, what have you done with this poll?
I'm swaying voters.
We are now 56% yes. And
I'm making great points.
No.
That's the issue.
People are just trolling.
Now people want it.
No.
Room boy. Okay,
I
well,
think,
here's my other crazy theory. Going all the way back to Starfighter. Here's my other crazy theory. That the child Finn Gray's playing is Luke's kid. And the theory is that Amy Adams is playing the kid's mom, and Amy Adams is playing Mara Jade, and she's dead. And every scene that we get from her is going to be flashbacks to when she was alive and explaining who she is, that she is Mara Jade and she was once married or with Luke Skywalker, and she dies, and maybe Luke doesn't know about the child, or maybe he does and somehow sends him into hiding, or whatever it may be. It's a crazy theory, but it's just as crazy as Broom Boy being the same kid.
Even if it doesn't happen, for now on, it's happening up here because Amy Adams, Mara Jade.
So what would be
my
cool
gosh.
too? People were yelling at me because the math didn't really line up. Because when Luke dies in The Last Jedi, he's 53, and Amy Adams right now is 51. So Mara in Legends is supposed to be younger by a couple years than Luke, maybe a year or two. So if she is a year or two younger, then Amy Adams would be like around the sequel trilogy time period aged Mara Jade, which could be when she dies, because around the sequel trilogy is when Luke Skywalker goes into hiding, and maybe it's because of whatever happens to Mara. And then you can have Amy Adams play a Mara Jade in Starfighter, and also play a younger Mara Jade, maybe by de-aging or just she's that age, in the Mandoverse too. It's very far-fetched, I know, but that's why I'm here.
I'm here for
That
it.
would be amazing.
I love it.
Anything to bring Mara Jade into live action would be fantastic.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point, though, that all of that stuff in reference to the time frame and then the flashbacks could also be, very doable in this. And then, just like I know people have talked about, oh, well, we're not going to see Mara Jade. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Disney did not put out Mara Jade's lightsaber just for the hell of it.
Agreed.
And you got to think of the guy who's in charge. Dave Filoni has talked about over and over and over again how he grew up in the 90s on Legends, and he loves those Legends characters. That's why he's brought Thrawn into canon. That's why he's brought Rook into Rebels. Like, he's brought so many of those Legends ideas into canon. That's why we continue to talk about more Legends characters being brought to canon, because he's likely to do that. Pelion in Mando season 3, like, he does it over and over and over again. The Chimera, all this stuff. So that's why people want to see Mara Jade, and because he's such a big Legends guy, he grew up on that stuff. Mara is the very likely next step, because she can be brought into Legends. I mean, into canon. I know a lot of people want Starkiller. He's too powerful, whatever. He can't really be brought in. Mara can, and it can still fit the timeline. So there's hope.
Agreed. I'm with you on this.
Yeah. So no Broom Boy, yes, Mara Jade.
Yes.
But
that could be a new poll.
Broom Boy is force sensitive. We don't know how Broom Boy ends up as a stable boy on Canto Bight. Maybe Mara Jade died and he still is Luke Skywalker. Maybe he's Broom Boy and Luke Skywalker's child.
No.
And if he is, though, then how is Ryan Gosling? Can't be Luke's brother.
Yeah, so
maybe he's Mara Jade's brother.
Maybe he's Luke's cousin.
That could be true. That what Ron just said, he could be Mara Jade's brother. It also could just be that he's not his uncle at all, and Ryan Gosling just happens upon this child that needs help, and he helps him.
Yeah, it's a foundling.
Yeah, or that too.
But that's a good point, because you could put him, and Luke could say, "Hey, you know what? I need to hide you. You need to go away and stay somewhere, or whoever." And then all of a sudden, this starts to come to fruition with Mara Jade and with Ryan Gosling's character as well.
Well, the reason I like the theory, and I want Luke to have a child, but I don't want Luke to have a child. I would rather have him have Mara Jade than have a child. But I like the theory because it allows you to establish more of a reason as to why Luke goes into hiding on Ahch-To, because there needs to be more. Right. If instead of just Ben having a bad dream or a couple bad dreams, now it's Mara died, maybe because of Ben Solo, or maybe because of Palpatine, or whatever the reason is. Mara either dies or has to go into hiding, or whatever. In Legends, like a lot, like Nick always brings up, Palpatine is in Mara's head like crazy, like screaming, "Kill Luke Skywalker," all that. So maybe Palpatine gets in her head, or maybe Palpatine gets in his head. Whatever it is, whatever happens with the love of his life, his possible wife, this girl, that will also play a big role into why he goes into hiding and maybe explain it better.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't know if that, I agree with Mike. I don't know if that has to result in a child.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if it did result in a child, Luke may not even know about it.
Yeah.
Or knew about it and is assuming that the child is also gone. Because my thought process would be Palpatine's in her head, Luke at, this probably the highest peak of his life is like, hey, I've told this story 1,000 times. I saw this dude get vaporized into thin air and I don't hear him. My father destroyed the Sith. I felt balance in the Force. All this, he's gone. You're crazy. And she's going nuts. And I think it would be a good story to have someone like Amy Adams or whoever it is, where Mara Jade does not end up great. Like, she's good with Luke. They're together, and then she slips back because her whole life she's been bad. So I think it would really break Luke Skywalker down to not only like lose his wife to the dark side and then actually lose her, and somehow if she just like takes off with the kid to Exegol and gets blown up or something.
Yeah.
And the kid's just out there, or no kid at all. And then, takes every ounce of his newfound Jedi mastery to get over that and to like move forward, puts all of that into training Ben, having family around again, and then that goes busted, and now it's all
Yeah, we have to get that explained to us, and I think at some point, I think that at some point they will, because people had such a problem with him in that first scene. I guess it was the last scene or whatever, but those scenes where he just takes that lightsaber and walks away, and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not telling you anything."
I'll add this though, just to play devil's advocate, because I know in our chat it's going to be truly a devil's advocate. I think that's kind of how Luke is the entire original trilogy. I think he's whiny. I think he's impulsive. I think he's irrational.
Yeah.
So I don't think the human being Luke Skywalker, any of that behavior is much of a stretch. But if we factor in who we assume he'd become as a Jedi, maybe it doesn't mesh. But as a person, I feel like he never really, other than like the assumed, on his flight to the second Death Star is a suicide mission to his knowledge. So other than that, and like not killing his father, up to that point, he's just kind of been doing whatever feels right, and not always with success. So I don't know. I think if he was faced with something that really rattled him as a human being, Octu very much makes sense to me. And him chucking the lightsaber and saying, "No, I'm done." Like he sits on the rock and Empire Strikes Back and shoves his head down. You ask the impossible.
His lightsaber and smashing shit because he's all upset about it.
Yeah, it's in the Skywalker blood.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you that
like Rey's blood.
I agree with you that there needs to be more of an explanation. But what's cool now is that it's been 6 years since Rise of Skywalker, and there still hasn't been an explanation. We just talked about how the Knights of Ren are getting explanations, Palpatine's returns getting explanations. Luke's fall is not. It almost feels like they're really trying to get it right and make sure they do the right thing when it comes to Luke going into hiding, because there's no book that talks about it. There's no comics. There's no nothing, at least that expands upon it more. So maybe they're waiting for a show. Maybe they're waiting for an animated series, whatever, to actually fully plan that out. But what I think is really cool, and you brought it up, Nick, was you can have him just lose so much so quickly, and maybe it's his fault. Like maybe he loses Mara because whatever he does or doesn't do, and then he loses Ben for the same reason, and then he's like, maybe I'm the issue. Like in order to save everybody, to save Leia, to save Han, to save everybody that's still left, because maybe Mara's dead and Ben has fallen. I got to go away. Like it's on me, and the only thing I can do right now is go into hiding. Also, his biggest mentors, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, they did the same thing. They went right into hiding when all else failed too.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to go back and revisit the Kylo Ren in the comics, because Jacob just pretty much texted me the whole the new comic that just came out. He was telling me all that, which is really cool, and it's a cool story. So again, we have to start and we'll have to go back and look at some of these things, because again, as this stuff comes out and it's canon, it makes these other movies and maybe even the original and the prequels as well, more interesting, more palatable to some people that maybe didn't like these as much. And the story that he was telling me about this new Knights of Ren, this new Teva or whatever, it sounds pretty cool. So we'll definitely have to do that. I know Nick would love that as well, but we'll have to definitely have him on again once this series is done, and I'm going to start to try to catch up on some of them as well, because there's so much more knowledge and information that we can get from this stuff that's going to help us explain, like we've just been talking about, what's going on with Luke and why he is there sitting there pouting, or he gave up on his school.
Well, I'll also throw out there that it is kind of the whole thing. I'm glad they're not touching it until they really want to, because the only reason we have that entire trajectory is because of a mystery box. I mean, it was very cool when you knew nothing and you were going into The Force Awakens, and the first thing in the opening crawl is Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Yeah.
And that is maybe the coolest mystery box, J.J. Abrams' classic move that he could have put into the thing.
Yeah.
But then it was like, okay, now what? Like, you're assuming it was all buttoned up and there was a reason, and then there wasn't. So like, if they want to sit on that for another 5-10 years, I'm cool with it, as long as they like are preparing to actually resolve that. But there are many things, Snoke, Luke being gone, where the First Order came from, like step by step, they were able to resolve the First Order thing. They were able to resolve the Snoke thing, kind of, So like, I would rather them take their time and keep building up on it, because like it would have been too much to jam in there. Mara Jade, all blah blah blah, and to like wrap it up. I'd rather them flesh it out.
Yeah, I mean, I always compare it to the Clone Wars for the prequel trilogy, because you need a multi-season show, whether it's live action or animation. I honestly would prefer animation, but to fully explain what happens before the sequels, because much like the Clone Wars, it helps with Anakin's fall, because you see, like, of course, Ahsoka leaving the Order is a huge thing for him, but you also see things like Fives find out about the inhibitor chip. Imagine the same sort of vibe parallel, where somebody finds out that Palpatine's still alive. Like maybe he calls out to Palpatine, uses somebody, like he uses Ochi of Bastoon, or he calls out to Ben Solo. He calls out to somebody to do some task or whatever, and then that person finds out that Palpatine's still alive, and he tries to tell people, and everybody's like, no, that's impossible. Like, nobody believed Fives either. And then the person dies, like Fives does, or something along those lines. Like, really cool stuff. Like the Mortis gods are established in the Clone Wars. What could you do with Luke, Leia, Han in an animated series? Well, also leading to the sequels, the First Order, Snoke, Palpatine, and Luke going into hiding, of course. And you can establish brand new characters like the Clone Wars does, Rex, Ahsoka, and countless other smaller characters, but those two, of course, are the big two that weren't really in the movies. You can have those, like, are fan favorite characters now, and establish Luke's other kids. Like, yes, they're going to die to Kylo Ren eventually, but still you can enjoy the characters while they last, I guess, because he had more than just one Padawan.
Yeah, well, and I think it's cool because I was wondering, I wanted to know a little bit more, about Snoke, and it sounds like they're dealing with him in these comics.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit more, because obviously we think that Palpatine is just using him as a puppet, which he probably is, but
like literally,
but there has to be some sort of connection there, which I think hopefully they'll discuss a little bit more in that as well.
I saw something really cool. I'm gonna try and find it. It's Snoke and Palpatine. So the old poster of the Phantom Menace where it's young Annie and behind him is the shadow of Vader.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody made this. You guys keep talking, I'll find it.
Yeah, as Zima just mentioned, we all can like figuratively say that Snoke was, being puppeted by Palpatine, but they kind of went as far as to say he almost literally was like he was he was his own person. Because obviously, they went the route of saying that he made him, and you see him in the tanks, and then they named what he is as a strand cast. So like he made a force sensitive person that could rule the galaxy without alerting the galaxy that Palpatine's back yet, because he wasn't. He's still working on it. And that is about it. Like there's nothing out there yet. Hopefully maybe in these comics or some other stuff that what is Snoke's deal? Like what does he think is going on? Does he know he's literally just a body double almost? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like does he have any aspirations? Is he, what did he say he came from? Also in The Force Awakens, everyone clearly knows who he is. Leia knows who he is.
Yep.
Han knows who he is. How public is that whole thing? And like,
I mean, he ruled for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's well known, I guess, by all their standards, and he seems very, very powerful. And they've gone as far to say he's a literal, abomination created thing, but he was still like his own person. So at what's the end game? There was a question up there. Never understood the end game for Snoke if Palpatine had succeeded. Like, does Snoke think he's a part of it? Could he have like flipped everybody? Like, I don't know.
I'd love to know more about Snoke, just because, like you said, he's a clone, but does he know he's a clone? And how much does he know? All that stuff. Right. That would be really, really cool. And he's very powerful. Like, yes, he is supposed to be Palpatine, but the way that he bounces the lightning off the ground, he's got that weird like black kyber crystal or whatever that was on his ring on his finger. Like, there's so much cool mystery still about that character, even though we know that he was just a clone to an extent, or abomination, I guess.
Well, and we almost like are implied in the comics that like Luke's severed hand from Bespin was used to like power the thing.
Yeah.
And and little stuff like that. Like obviously maybe even what they're trying to get Grogu for in the Mandos, like all the necromancer stuff kind of results in the only successful thing they created was Snoke, maybe. But even then, or Rey's parent, like I don't know, or a Snoke is like the only viable option they had to be, a literal puppet for Palpatine while he was not, actually able-bodied, or as the novelization puts it, more than a clone, less than a man.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point too, where everybody knows who Snoke is, and they used Luke's hand. So if Luke finds out about that, because everybody knows who Snoke is, if he finds out who Snoke is, faces him, and finds out somehow that his severed hand was used to create him, again, that's more reason for him to go into hiding, so that more clones like Snoke, because Snoke is ridiculously powerful, they could make a whole army of Snokes if Luke gets captured, or another severed hand gets cut off. They could make more of these abominations. More reason for him to go into hiding, because he's the key to making these clones.
Yeah. Well, and then also at the time, this is the one thing that I feel like the Snoke in a vat, or many Snokes in a vat kind of stole from us, is that it seemed like what we were seeing on screen, both in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, is that Snoke is some dude that's not a Sith, very powerful, kind of a new thing. Yeah. And he's definitely really mangled. And he's definitely very, very, very afraid of Luke Skywalker. Like,
Yes.
let's park our biggest cannon we can wherever he is and just unload.
Yeah.
Don't want anything to do with him. Then we can finally be okay. And so
Yeah.
the big fan theory at the time was like, oh, Luke messed Snoke up real good.
Yeah.
And that must have something to do with why he's gone. And that's not what happened. And, you know, now we see in the vat that Snokes are made like that. They come out of the package all mangled up.
Yeah.
So, you know, and also like that would have made Snoke at most, you know, 30 or 40 years old, and he looks like he's 1,000 years old. So I don't know what they plan to do with that, or if that's just the mysterious ways card, which I think is okay in Star Wars. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, with Snoke, I think whatever you tell for a story with Luke, you're gonna have to explain more of him, and that's just a necessity at this point because you've had Project Necromancer for so long, and he's the outcome of that.
And then why, you know, is Snoke's fear of Luke Skywalker just kind of embedded from Palpatine? Like, is that,
Yeah.
you know, maybe, I don't know.
Ron, did you get that picture I sent you?
Yes,
What is the picture, Mike?
So it's like I said, it's like Anakin as the shadow of Vader, but it's Palpatine as the shadow of Snoke, and it's from the Project Necromancer on Mount Tantus in the Bad Batch. You just gotta see it. It's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I don't know. Actually, I can shout out to whoever created it. Venture Pictures, I think. So shout out Venture Pictures. This is pretty cool. It's just a poster, for the Bad Batch. It's the Shadow of Tantus. I think that's the name of the episode. But literally the shadow is Snoke, and it's so cool.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That must be the most creative poster ever when they did the Anakin in his shadow as Vader. Like, that's so simple, but just yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not looking for, if you're just looking past it, it doesn't, you don't see it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a different shadow.
Yeah,
and
it looks like
Vader, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch that Bad Batch episode again.
Bad Batch season 3 is so underrated. It's crazy. That whole season was just incredible, and the finale itself is perfect.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're going to see more of her.
Oh, Omega for sure, because she's the only one who, at least that we know of, that can transfer midichlorians. She might not be force sensitive herself, according to Asajj Ventress, but she's the only one who can transfer midichlorians. Maybe Grogu can. That's still a little bit shaky from the Mandalorian. Maybe Luke's hand can. It creates Snoke, we assume, at least some form. So, but other than that, Omega's the only one. So Palpatine's not going to stop hunting her down. So we'll see where we see Omega next, I guess.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on timeline too, because they're obviously still hunting Grogu much later than, you know, the original trilogy. So
yeah. I think Omega is probably going to come to live action next, just because I don't see her being in Maul's Shadow Lord, and I don't really see there any other place for her to be.
Also, speaking of Project Necromancer, can I just throw out there, like, they never actually figured it out.
Yeah,
you know, they figured it out by making Snoke, and you know, I don't know if you count them cloning Rey's parents, and you know, because they've kind of said that they were failed clones, but failed in the sense that they didn't become ruthless Palpatines. They were just like, oh, they became normal people.
Yeah,
screw them. But like, they never figured out how to house Palpatine, which I think is interesting, considering, you know, I'm a big Palpatine guy. I feel like sometimes in our fan circles he gets a bad rap. I think he's a very powerful person. Some people don't think so.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes sense that like some clone body that they've never really transferred that in canon force to a clone before, that it's not going to work for him, that it kills the clone, or, you know, it's a decrepit body. And even in the movie, like, he kind of got lucky. And I don't know if they really talk about it, but he assumed whatever he assumed was going to happen probably wasn't the way to go. Like he probably foresaw I'm coming back, and he thought, well, maybe if Rey kills me, I'll just like suck her life force out and I'll, become me again. And then he kind of accidentally like gets it from them, and now it's game on. And so everything he's been doing just basically was leading up to that moment and getting kind of lucky that he discovered the dyad. But I don't know.
Well, no, it was lucky, but it kind of was him too, because he made the clone of himself, which was Dathan, Rey's dad.
Yeah.
And then that clone made a kid, Rey, and then Rey just happened to be with a Skywalker, and they happened to be a dyad. So he wasn't fully just 100% luck. He had a part in it. He made a clone.
He did. He was lucky they became a dyad. He was, and I don't think when people are out here talking about like, was he going to actually inhabit Rey, and is that how the rule of two actually works? I don't think so, because that guy of anybody is not just going to like give it up and be like, you know what, I'd be happy living through you while you're being Empress like the rest of the Sith Lords.
Yeah.
That shit ends with him. Rule of two ends with him forever. And so I think he had some kind of scheme hatched, like, she's going to kill me out of hatred. It's going to give me some juice, and I'm going to hop into that body in the closet over there. And turns out he didn't have to, because he's got the, fountain of youth in front of him, and he's back in business for about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny because Palpatine is so powerful, and they really do well that it's not easy to make or to make a clone. It's easy to do, but not to make a force sensitive clone, and to be able to live forever. Because Palpatine, yes, is able to survive the events of Return of the Jedi, but he's clearly not. He's on life support. He's not living it up on a beach somewhere. He's really struggling, and he's still trying to figure out how he can be young again. Because it's impossible to live forever. But that's what Palpatine sadly has to realize. But he kind of figures it out, like you said at the end. Like, maybe he could have lived forever if Rey wasn't really just trying to kill him. Like, what was the deal with that? But you were saying how Palpatine doesn't get enough credit for being powerful. I just watched the episode where in Clone Wars where he goes to Mandalore, and what's so good about that is Maul and Savage for like 2 seasons are established as these crazy powerful beings. Maul, of course, is just really, really cool. He's one of my favorite characters. But Savage himself, he's got this Night Sister magic, and he's described as like a monster. He's killing Jedi. He's killing all these people. And Maul, of course, is Maul. Palpatine waltzes in to the throne room on Mandalore and just destroys both of them like it's nothing. Like he barely even breaks a sweat.
While laughing.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, people underestimate how powerful Palpatine was. For sure.
I have that 4 minutes on here. I was going to use it a couple of weeks ago, but what I want to get back to what I just put up there, because I think Zima had a good point, and I'd be interested to see what you think, Mike, in reference to how powerful he was, because at the end, he does take that Force lightning and just puts it up into all the ships there on Exegol.
Yeah, that's when he has the dyad.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And he's also on Exegol with like all the
so that 100% is peak Palpatine power. The PPP. That's peak Palpatine power because he's got the dyad strength, and like you said, the planet itself gives him power, and he's just, you can't be more powerful than that. Like, he takes out all the ships in the sky. Like, that's such a cool scene.
I think he's also an interesting, like, it'll kind of always be other than that scene, I agree with you guys. Like, I don't think it gets any more powerful than that, but he'll kind of have like a mysterious ways card, because there's so many, Jacob can attest to this, there's so many like examples in the comics, especially in some of the novels, but especially comics, where like Palpatine just kind of smokes Vader and is just kind of taunting him with like, you don't get it, and I don't think you ever will, because like I might have been wrong to think that a Jedi could ever understand this kind of thing, because what I've got in me, like I literally am the dark side. Like my goal is to basically be the dark side completely. And that like you can't wave a lightsaber in my face and think that you can do anything. And it's really hard to put that on screen, especially when he goes out by electrocuting himself to death. But like, you know, it's hard to kind of put that, to quantify that. And I think a really good way to quantify it is he reaches up in the sky and basically takes out, you know, the whole playing field.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty sick. I feel like maybe you could get away with like the only way he could have gotten blown up is if the dyad that fueled him killed him. You know, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's cool to an extent because like Rey has all the Jedi, like when all the Jedi call out to her, because she obviously can't defeat Palpatine at that power by herself. So you really do understand that there's a whole backing of all the Jedi that came before. That's the only way you can take down this being in front of them. Like it has to be everybody in the strength of everybody to take him down. Which is why, because there's been a lot of rumors now that Simon Kinberg's making episode 10, 11, 12. I really don't want that to happen because 9, although it may not be the perfect ending for a lot of people, you can't go to episode 10 and just be like, yeah, that whole Palpatine being ridiculously powerful, like the most powerful being we've ever seen before. There's a next episode after that. Like, no, that's the end. That's the end of the story. New saga time. Like that's it. New saga.
Well, and I think that's why they're going into Starfighter, or even before that, they were talking about Rey's, you know, whether it's a trilogy or whatever it is, whether it's Rey's movie or not, but 15 years ahead of that, where we can go and be like, okay, we can move away from what we just saw with Palpatine. There's another bad guy on the rise or coming up or whatever, or already established, and now we're gonna fight him. We're gonna start a new Jedi Academy or whatever we're gonna do here, but. Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I don't think we need a 10, 11, and 12 in reference to those type of that close after the end of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Well, and also like they're setting up things like Peridia, an entirely new galaxy, all these kind of offshooting things that will probably always, like you said earlier on, like we set this up, let's put it in the shelf for a little bit, let it marinate, let's keep building it up, and then you know, if they do 10, 11, and 12, then it won't feel like as jarring maybe if it has this other source material that isn't just a continuation of right after episode 9. You know, we have like a whole era built up and maybe a new idea of like how big the universe is rather than sticking with the same.
Right.
thing.
Well, and even if they you know, number them 10, 11, 12, if we can get a 15 or 10-year gap after that, I think you can say, oh, okay, cool. We have a gap, just like from the prequels to the originals, and then again to the sequels. We have a good time jump, even though they're all sort of related. There's enough time in between that they can do what they want and then sort of let it simmer. Or let it die off a little bit and start with something new.
And I think in terms of like, because we got on this talking about Palpatine, I think it can be portrayed kind of like just as dangerous in a way, at least in feel, to have people who are like aspiring to be that become dangerous and become a problem. Like they don't have to be, you know, Sith Lords, but like are infatuated by that and kind of, you know, take it on, because you can do some pretty dangerous stuff and not be a Sith Lord in name. You know, Baylan Skoll is plenty scary and cool without having to be a Sith Lord or, you know, all these people. So I think you can continue it. The tough part that we haven't mentioned yet is that they've always kind of referred to the saga films as the Skywalker saga. And like I hate to be the guy, maybe the first one on the podcast to say it, but like I think we're good. Like I think the universe is, you know, needing a little more other stuff.
Oh
yeah,
you know, I think.
all right.
I think.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
No,
Like,
I think we're.
on that. That's fine.
I don't think we need to do like saga trilogies anymore. I think we can like work on these stories in the ways that they happen. We don't have to make, you know, we have to slate like this through line story forever. I think we've kind of proven we can expand a little more, make the universe bigger.
Yeah, and I think the success of the TV shows shows that too. It's like you're getting more content than a movie could do, but not quite like what 3 movies could do. But they're also seeing like, yeah, the movies are doing well in the theater, but the real goal is to like, this is where we need people to be. We need them to keep watching the old stuff. The content's already there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
I think
you don't need. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, I just think saga wise, moving forward, you don't have to have the next saga start because the Mando stuff's not going to be a saga. And post sequels maybe turns into a saga eventually, but the only place I could see an actual 9 movie, multiple trilogy, full connected event happening would be the Old Republic, and that might not happen for a long time. So,
yeah,
true, very true.
Now, Mike, if your theory is correct and that actor in Starfighter is Luke's kid, kind of changes the game on the through line of the saga.
Yeah.
A lot to answer for if you're correct. But all I'm really saying is like I don't think they need to base everything they make off of the next 3 big movies anymore. I think they can actually base the movies based on how everything's going now.
Yeah, and I think you're right because everything that has come out has done such a good job. Even with Mandalorian, I mean, there's until season 2, obviously, when we see Luke. But again, if that didn't happen, it would have been okay if we didn't see that. We all saw it; it was amazing. We loved it. We felt it. We teared up about it. But if he wasn't there, Mandalorian would still have been good. The first season and all the way up through the second season was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
so there's so much stuff that we already know about that, and there's so much of the Skywalker stuff, and there's so much more because of this bigger universe. And now we're in Peridia, so we have a whole other galaxy to deal with. I think you're still going to have a little bit here and there, little trickles in of the Skywalker saga, so to speak. But yes, there's so much more that we can expand on now that we don't have to have that saga continue. As much as I love it, and I know we all do, there's so much more stories to be told and some of these new characters and stuff coming out that we want answers to these as well. So let's not worry about, this saga thing. Let's worry, let's find out more about what happened to Luke. Let's find out more about what's going to happen to Rey. Let's go back and find out more about, the Jedi 250 years ago or 2000 years ago when they started. And I think there's enough out there. And I think there's enough interest for people that are writing and making these movies along with people like us that will see it. And I think, like we were talking about the theatrical stuff in the movies, I think since COVID, it has taken a huge hit. And I don't know. I mean, I go usually during the day, but like Mike, so when you went to see Superman or Fantastic Four, were the theaters packed?
Well, yes. The problem that movies just aren't making as much money right now, especially superhero movies. This year were some of the best superhero, like Thunderbolts. I thought was extremely underrated. Fantastic Four was really, really solid. Superman was really, really good. None of them made $700 million, like not even close to $1 billion. And that's like really shocking. Now, granted, last year, Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion. So it's sort of just a this year problem. But yeah, since the pandemic, like things have gone way, way down in the movie theaters. It'll be very interesting to see how a Star Wars movie does, though, because it's Star Wars and it's different from everything else.
Yeah, we haven't had one since the pandemic.
Exactly.
We've had all of these live action things, which again are great. And I guess I don't know if they figure that out, if they just divide it up and say, oh, okay, it made this much money in the theaters. But once it comes to streaming, it's still making money for these people.
Yeah.
So there's the money is still going up in Fantastic Four or Superman. But and maybe it's just, because I go during the day or whatever, but I mean, I haven't been to a movie where there's been more than 10 people in it in years, which is great. I love going, at 10 or 11 o'clock when it's the first showing, the first matinee on a Tuesday, because, I'm off, which is great. But, I haven't waited in line for anything. And I've seen Superman, and I saw Fantastic Four and, Thunderbolts and stuff, but I don't think there is as much patriotism or whatever you want to call it, people going to the movies anymore, that because they know all, and also a couple weeks sometimes these freaking movies are on a streaming service.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But there's just something, and I know, I think I'll speak for all four of us, there's just something about sitting in the theater watching a Star Wars movie.
Heck yeah, I just put a new surround sound system in my house just to watch Star Wars. You kidding me?
Nice.
I did Dolby Atmos in my house.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever get away from, especially a movie, putting it in the theater. Like, they'll probably always do that. I actually think, though, that we're either in this time now or it's coming, where Derek and Ron, you can attest to this, similar to the music industry, where it's a reversal. So the way that the music industry, in very general terms, always used to work is you go on tour to promote your album so you can get album sales and make money. Now you put out an album to get your work out there so that you can tour to make money.
Yeah.
And I could see the script kind of flipping of like, hey, we're cool just doing live action series and getting streaming viewership and ad revenue, all that kind of stuff. If now we can put out a blockbuster movie that will make money, but not as much as it used to make, but drive them into the streaming services, to all these shows that support the movie, that might be, the balance sheet bread and butter in the very near future.
Yeah. It might be, because I think, like, even as many subscribers as Disney Plus has, when you make 2 seasons of Andor that add up to more than $500 million, it's hard to make your money back on that.
Right.
But in the box office, if it's $1 billion movie, you're making a lot of money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there is room. Like, I think if Skeleton Crew was a huge success, it could have made a lot of money because the budget was not nearly as big as like Andor. But it's very hard to calculate that too, because there's not like specific numbers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, like Nick said, you have to look now, especially with Disney Plus and Hulu and everything they're doing. The ad revenue is growing a lot.
Yeah, that too.
A lot.
Yeah. Well, but I think Mandalorian and Grogu are going to be a smash because of those two characters. Because of, again, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, everybody knows who Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever you want to call it, but a lot of people still look at it that way. Where when it gets into the theaters, it's going to be a huge success. And I think that's one of the reasons why they cast Ryan Gosling in Starfighter, because he's huge right now. They want to put another Star Wars movie out to follow up Mandalorian and Grogu, and they can't. They're not going to do it with no-name actors because of everything that has gone on in the live action stuff with the Acolyte or Andor or things like that, where, okay, there's no names in these, and they sort of flopped, not for us, but they're fantastic for us, but they didn't do as well as they were hoping. And like you said, Mike, they're not going to make, they're not making $1 billion on Andor. That they're not making what they spent, for sure, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think with these two new movies, that's why you're doing a Mandalorian and Grogu, because everybody knows who they are, and they've become such a household name. And you have to bring someone like Ryan Gosling in, who's killing it right now in these movies, to do that second movie and try to see what happens when we do this without a puppet, so to speak, and have this actor here. Can we take him and make him a good character so that people are going to come and watch this show? Because again, look at Jude Law. Jude Law, I mean, huge actor, but he's in a live action. He's not in the movie. Now they might bring him back into the movies, which would be great. I think he would be a good character, whether he turns bad or good. I think they're gonna, whichever way they're gonna use him. But I think once these movies come out, we're gonna see more of what's gonna happen next. If Starfighter does well, I think we're gonna start to see more of these Star Wars movies and possibly the Old Republic start to come out and say, okay, cool, Star Wars still has it. We can still put these movies out. We can throw in some animation. We can throw in some live action in between, but we can start making Star Wars movies again, and they can start coming out every couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing we're missing about the revenue is the merchandising. Is
True.
bigger than ever. I mean, they've always been great with merchandising, but the merchandising is bigger than ever. Everybody is paying for licenses to make Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Oh, it looks
Whoa.
good.
Phantom today too.
That's
It's
awesome.
It doesn't come with this.
Oh, really?
The ghost. So I had to buy it separately because I was like, where the hell? And Jacob was like, oh, you got to buy that separately. I'm like, of course I do. It actually came today. But
That
this is
looks great.
Yeah, this is a freaking awesome. But
Yeah, but that's a great example of like, you look at all of us that are older that have more expendable income, and the Black Series alone of things. Like, how many? Like Ron knows. I didn't get into that for that very specific reason. I bought one and I sent it to Ron a year and a half later. But I did send it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, you look at Black Series alone. I have a friend who he's a big collector, and he's got 4 of every figure. And like, if the box has a little crinkle in it, he'll buy another one.
That's so crazy.
And there's people that do it. And you go to all of these conventions and you see people reselling, and you see the merchandising dollars alone and what Star Wars is doing, that even a box office thing that's not doing $1 billion is probably doing 5 times as much in merch than it did before.
It's the genius of George Lucas.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh
to
my gosh.
retain that.
Yeah.
And the fact that 20th Century Fox was like, yeah, that's fine with us. We don't really want it.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right.
Oh, they would be Disney at this point.
Mhm.
Yeah. Probably.
Actually.
so I am gonna, because I mean, and we can stay on and watch it if you want, but I am gonna play that clip because I think it's fantastic with Palpatine and Maul and Asajj, because we're getting close to 2 hours here. So I want to thank everybody that was on here. Zima, Jacob, thank you. Steve, Sean, really appreciate you guys coming and chatting with us and supporting us each week. Jan, well, it's Sean, Pam said that already. So again, thank you guys so much, Jessica, for joining us each week. I know we would sit here without you guys, but it's really fun with you guys to put in your 2 cents, to interact with us and to interact with the polls and different fun things like that. And we will be back again Wednesday. Tomorrow, if you're not familiar with it already, tomorrow Mike, a guy who loves Star Wars, will be on at 2:00 Eastern time.
Oh yeah.
And, we will, he will be talking Star Wars, and Derek and I usually, Nick unfortunately has to work, but Derek and I usually jump on for a little while and see what's new. So if you haven't checked out Mike's channel, please go ahead and check that out. And like I said, we'll be back next week, but we are going to watch the Clone Wars episode where Palpatine comes to Mandalore and interacts with Darth Maul and his, I guess, big, I don't know, what is it, his big brother or little brother?
Physically big.
Big, yeah, but I think it's his little brother.
I think it's his younger brother, yeah. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Star Wars Jedi Chat, and enjoy this video.
I sense a presence I haven't felt since Master.
I am most impressed to see you have survived your injuries.
I used your training, Master, and I have built all this in hopes of returning to your side.
How unfortunate that you are attempting to deceive me.
Master?
You have become a rival!
I'm not like you. I never was.
Remember, the first and only reality of the Sith. There can only be two. And you are no longer my apprentice. You have been replaced.
Please, please.
There is no mercy. Do not worry. I'm not going to kill you. I have other uses for you.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
Just I mean, with a flick of a hand. But anyways, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next week on Star Wars Jedi Chat. May the Force be with you.